to laugh at ghost stories. You know the kind. Those whispered tales truckers pass around in diners, smoky lounges, or on the CB radio during a lonely haul through nowhere. They always felt like campfire fiction, exaggerations, a way to kill time between exits. But one night in Pennsylvania changed that for me. This isn't something I read. It didn't happen to a friend of a friend. It happened to me, and I haven't slept right since. It was late November, the kind of cold that makes your bones ache. I'd been driving for 14 hours straight, hauling dry freight from Ohio to New Jersey. The roads were quiet, and a dense fog had settled over the highway like a ghostly blanket. I was past the town of Liverpool, coming up on mile marker 217 when I saw it. A rest stop. Just a gravel lot tucked against the woods. No buildings, no fuel pumps. Just space for big rigs, and an old busted vending machine flickering like a dying firefly. I pulled in behind two other trucks, both white semis, both shut off and still. Something about that image stuck with me. Three silent machines parked like coffins under the moonlight. I remember thinking, well, at least I'm not alone out here. I logged my hours, turned off the cab lights, crawled into the sleeper, and zipped into my bag. The last thing I remember was the sound of branches scratching lightly against the side of my trailer. Peaceful, almost soothing. But that peace didn't last. I woke up gasping. Something had slammed against my passenger side door. Not knocked, slammed. Hard enough that the entire cab shook. I bolted upright, heart pounding like a jackhammer. For a second, I thought I was dreaming. But then, another hit. This time on the driver's side, then both sides. Simultaneous, rhythmic, like something or someone was pounding on the metal with both fists. My instincts kicked in. I lunged for the curtain, pulled it back, and grabbed my flashlight. I clicked it on, shining the beam through the fog-covered passenger window. Nothing. Not a shadow. Not a figure. No sign of anyone. I flicked the light to the other side. Still nothing. But the banging continued, and not just random pounding. It felt like a pattern, like it was moving with purpose, like it knew where I was looking and wanted me to know it. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. I could feel the vibrations through the frame of the cab, like fists the size of sledgehammers were testing the walls of my steel box. In one desperate move, I turned the ignition and floored it. Gravel kicked up behind me, and the fog swallowed my headlights as I sped out of the lot. My heart didn't start slowing down, because just ahead of me, I saw both of the other trucks pulling out at the exact same time. No signals, no warning. They were just running, same as me. Something had woken all of us. Something had been at all our doors. We didn't talk right away. I was gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles were white. I switched over to channel 19 and called out. Breaker 19, anyone from that stop back there, you copy? There was silence at first, then static. Then finally a voice crackled through. A man's voice, rough, nervous. Red Kenworth. I was parked in front. You heard it too? I exhaled, trying to sound calm. Felt like the damn truck was gonna tip over. Another voice cut in. Volvo sleeper. Parked beside both of you. Whatever that was. It hit my doors hard, both sides, like it wanted in. We all paused. None of us had seen a thing. Not a person, not an animal. No broken glass, no damage. Just the sound, the force. That's what made it worse. It wasn't some hitchhiker playing pranks. We would have seen them. It wasn't weather. It wasn't wind. It was something else. We all drove in silence after that, no one wanting to admit what we were thinking. After about 30 miles, the red Kenworth signed off. The Volvo guy vanished off the channel a few exits later, and I was left alone with my thoughts. I didn't stop until sunrise. I pulled into a small-town diner just off Route 22. I was still shaking when I poured my second cup of coffee. A waitress, older, kind-looking, saw my hands trembling and gave me a soft smile. "Long night?" she asked. "Something like that," I replied. "You ever hear of anything strange near mile 217? Her smile faded instantly. "You parked at the rest lot past the gas station?" I nodded slowly. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You're not the first. Truckers come in here every few months. Same story. Bangs on the doors. No one there. One guy said he saw red handprints on his windows. Another swore he heard voices." I swallowed hard. "Why there? What's out there?" She looked over her shoulder, then leaned closer. "Back in '78, a trucker named Dale Norris was beaten to death at that lot. They say someone dragged him out in the middle of the night. No one heard a thing. His rig just sat there with the door wide open until another trucker found it 2 days later. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. That night kept eating at me. So I did something stupid. I went back. Same day of the week. Same time. Same parking spot. Maybe I needed answers. Maybe I needed to prove to myself that it was all in my head. But deep down, I knew better. Everything was calm again, for a while. I waited in silence. The fog returned just like before. The temperature dropped. 3:10 a.m. Nothing. I started to think maybe I imagined the whole thing. Then my CB crackled. But it wasn't a trucker. It was a voice. Faint, raspy. It repeated the same words again and again, like a chant whispered through the wires. "Don't open the door! Don't open the door! Don't open the door!" I shut the radio off, heart hammering in my chest. And then I heard it. 3 slow bangs. But this time, they didn't come from the outside. They came from inside my cab. Not loud, not aggressive, just deliberate. Like something inside the sleeper wall was knocking. I don't even remember turning the engine on. I just remember the cold air burning my face as I sped away, headlights slicing through the fog, the sound of those knocks still echoing in my ears. I haven't slept at a rest stop since, but the worst part, it didn't stop there. A week later, I was home, in my own bed. No fog, no diesel engine humming. Just the silence of a quiet night. And that's when I heard it again. Bang, from the wall behind my headboard. Bang, from inside the house. I live alone. I didn't check. I didn't open the door. I just sat there staring into the darkness, praying for morning. I haven't told anyone this story. Not really. Most people wouldn't believe it. Maybe you don't either. Maybe you think it was a hallucination, or stress, or sleep paralysis. But I've met 2 other truckers who felt the same thing. And I've heard whispers that there are more. Drivers who don't stop anymore. Ones who only drive in daylight. So if you ever find yourself on Route 217 in Pennsylvania, and you see a gravel lot with 3 trucks parked in a perfect line, don't pull in, don't stop, don't open the door, because once it finds your truck, it follows you home. It was supposed to be a simple rest break. Just another quiet night parked off Highway 33, a few miles outside of Sweetwater. The highway was dead silent, the kind of road where only truckers and lost souls traveled after midnight. I had pulled my rig into a small gravel turnout, one I'd used before, hidden behind a crooked wire fence and surrounded by dry mesquite bushes. There were no lights, no gas stations, no towns for at least 30 miles in either direction. Just me, the whispering wind, and the occasional hiss of my engine cooling down. After 14 straight hours behind the wheel, my body ached, my eyes felt sandpaper dry, and I was fighting to stay awake. So I did what I always do. I parked, slid into the back of my sleeper cab, and let the hum of the truck lull me into something close to peace. I remember setting my alarm, plugging in my half-dead phone, and glancing at the glowing clock on the dashboard. 2:13 a.m. A calm, uneventful time. I laid down, pulled the curtain closed, and let sleep creep in. But then I heard a cough. Not the wind, not the engine. A human cough, dry, almost lazy. I froze. Every muscle in my body went tight. My brain tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was from outside. Maybe it echoed weird off the metal shell of the cab. But it wasn't outside. It was too close. Then came the yawn. Low, guttural, slow. Coming from somewhere above me. But my sleeper cab doesn't have an upper bunk. I drive solo. Always have. Always will. I didn't move. Couldn't move. I lay there, my ears straining, heart thudding, air caught in my lungs. The silence that followed was heavier than the night itself. Then the bunk creaked. Not the truck, not the wind. The actual bed frame above me, metal shifting, weight settling. Someone, or something, was climbing down. My skin went ice cold. I didn't think. I reacted. I threw off the blanket, grabbed my boots, and flung the door open. The air outside hit me like a slap, sharp, dry, and suffocating. I didn't care. I bolted. No flashlight, no plan, no shoes. I ran down that gravel turnout and onto the black ribbon of highway, barefoot and terrified. Behind me, I swear I heard the curtain rustle. Not from my panic, not from wind, but from movement, intentional, slow. I ran for what felt like miles. My lungs burned, my soles bled. But I didn't stop until I saw lights, blue and red swirling in the darkness. A patrol cruiser, a godsend. The trooper nearly drew his weapon when he saw me stumbling toward him, shirt drenched in sweat, eyes wide like a madman. He lowered it when he saw I was more scared than dangerous. He thought I was drunk at first, or high, but I kept repeating it. There's someone in my truck. Over and over like a broken record. He drove me back, slowly, carefully. The cab was still locked, no signs of forced entry. But when he opened the door and shone his flashlight inside, he turned pale. The curtain was pulled back, and the seat, the passenger seat, was reclined, all the way back, like someone had been sitting there for hours. He didn't say much, just turned to me and asked, "You parked at Widow's Stretch, didn't you?" I blinked. "What?" He shook his head. "Forget it. Just, don't stop here again." That should have been the end. Should have been enough to scare me into forgetting it. But it wasn't. For days after, I couldn't sleep in my truck. I kept the curtain open, lights on, music playing. But I still felt it. A presence, watching. I started asking around at truck stops, quietly at first. Most folks gave me blank stares or told me to get more sleep. But then, at a diner just outside Amarillo, an old-timer pulled me aside. "You saw him, didn't you?" he asked. His voice was quiet, like he didn't want the walls to hear. "Who?" I replied. "The sleeper," he said. He told me the legend. Said back in the 70s, a trucker named Ray Conley had fallen asleep behind the wheel near Sweetwater, crashed into a fuel tanker. The collision lit up the desert like a fireball. Both drivers were killed instantly. But here's the thing. Ray wasn't found behind the wheel. His body was found curled up in his sleeper cab, as if he climbed back there before dying. No burns, no injuries, consistent with the impact. Since then, folks have reported strange things. Flickering cab lights, sleeper curtains moving on their own, the weight of someone climbing into bed, and always, a cough. "The ones who hear him," the old man said, tapping his temple. "He marks them. They hear him again, over and over." I didn't believe it. Not really. Not until a week later in Utah. I was parked behind a service station. Clean, safe, well lit, 2:13 a.m. I woke up suddenly, not to noise, but to the feeling of weight. The mattress shifted beneath me, like someone had sat on the edge. I snapped my eyes open. No one there. But the mirror, fogged from the cold, had a fresh handprint. Not mine. And worse, a faint outline, a face, pressed against the glass from the inside. That night, I didn't run. I didn't even breathe. I just waited, heart hammering for the sun to rise. A few nights later, I picked up a load in Colorado. Same dispatcher, real straight shooter type. As I was leaving, he looked at me and said, "Avoid Sweetwater if you can. A lot of bad luck on that route lately." I laughed nervously. "Yeah, I've heard." He looked me dead in the eye. "You ever hear someone cough in your sleeper?" he asked. My stomach dropped. He handed me the manifest and turned away. The trip was smooth. No odd sounds. No faces in the mirror. But the silence. It wasn't comforting anymore. It was waiting. That night in Tucson, I forced myself to sleep. Eyes shut tight. Head under the blanket. 2:13 a.m. The curtain moved. It didn't sway. It shifted, like someone gently parted it. I sat up slowly, and in that sliver of space between the curtain and the wall, I saw an eye. Staring, not angry, not evil, just lost, blinking, watching, waiting. I didn't scream, didn't run, because I finally understood. This wasn't a haunting. It wasn't about scaring people. It was about not being alone. Ray never knew he died. His last memory was crawling into that bunk, exhausted, desperate for rest. And now he keeps doing it, over and over, looking for peace, sometimes in my truck, sometimes in yours. But here's the part that keeps me up at night. They say once you hear him, he follows you. Maybe not every night, maybe not for weeks. But he'll find you again, and when he does, you'll hear it, a cough, then a yawn, then the weight on the bunk beside you. So next time you're pulled over for a midnight nap, make sure your curtain is closed tight, and if you hear breathing that isn't yours, don't move, don't speak. And for God's sake, don't look back, because that lost eye in the dark, it might just be looking for a place to rest, forever.